Allah, so let me stray. Please guide my way onto the path of my deen. Allah, subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah, I'm calling your name. Oh, Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome, dear viewers, to a live episode of Let's Talk. And I'm your host for the day, Junaid Dar. Dear viewers, I'd like to begin by thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for bringing us all together and to work for His deen. Furthermore, I'd like to thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for giving us the opportunity to make mention of the beautiful name of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Dear viewers, today we have a very sensitive but a very important subject, especially for our time today. And that subject is none other than discussion on the Sharia Islamiyya, the Islamic law. Now, dear viewers, many of us will agree and understand that the Ummah of Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam has gone through a number of phases. And now, over the last 100 years in particularly, we can see that we've gone through a steady decline. So many thinkers, philosophers, shuyukh have said that the primary cause for this decline is the very fact that we have abstained from the implementation of God's divine laws. But when you're at rock bottom, there's only one way out, and that's forwards and upwards. So we want to have a discussion today about how we can move forward, how we can implement God's divine law, if that's really the key to success. In what way are we going to implement it? What is meant when we say implementation? What is understood by Sharia itself? Is it a set of rules, guidelines, or is there something further? Is there hidden meanings? Is there objects and goals behind everything that God Almighty has sent forward? Now, dear viewers, there are three possible alternatives that we can possibly ascribe to. We can go forward with the most classical approach, implementation of the laws inside of the Quran and the Sunnah. Or we can go for something quite the opposite to that, which is no laws, not using God's laws to govern politics or economics or society, but leaving those laws to one's private life. Or there could be a third option, a new option. Maybe that is the implementation of God's laws, but based upon the intent that God ascribed for each aspect of these laws. So let's begin by introducing our guest, and then when we come back, we'll see which position each speaker is on. Is he on the more classical approach or more on the interpretation approach? But let's begin by introducing our speakers first and foremost. If I can begin from the right and ask you to give us your name and a little bit about yourself, please.
Yeah, sure. My name is Omar Khalid. I work as a translator, and I write scripts for one of the TV channels, and I always enjoy being here.
Thank you very much, Omar. Okay, if I could ask the next guest.
Yes, my name is Mohammed Utal. I'm a law graduate from the UK and currently going through the ASHA process in Egypt, and I'm really happy to be on the show today.
Okay, excellent. You a law graduate and you're talking about Islamic law, so it'd be great to hear your opinions and thoughts as well. If I can move to the left-hand side.
Yeah, my name is Patrick. I'm from Slovenia. I study here in MSA University, and I'm really glad to be on the show.
Okay, welcome back, Patrick. And man needs no introduction, but go ahead.
My name is Idris Tawfiq, and I'm here. I'm an English teacher, and at the same time studying Arabic and memorizing Quran, trying to benefit and do the best I can while I'm here.
Okay, and welcome back to Let's Talk as well, brother Idris.
Yes.
Okay, if I can go around the table and just start off by understanding, what do you think is the correct way that a Muslim society should govern itself? Brother Omar, I mentioned three possible outcomes. I think those are the only three. If there's another, feel free to bring it forward.
Sure.
The more classical approach, a traditional approach, or would you favor a more secular approach where we leave God's laws to one's private life and let man govern society with his laws? Or the third option of governing a country by the intent of these laws? What are those three? Which one of those three do you favor?
Yeah. I think I favor, that of course we are obliged as Muslims to implement what Allah has revealed to us in the Quran and the Sunnah and according to the life of the Prophet and so on. So for sure it's going to be implemented by people. So you can say it's sort of like a mixture, but it is not. Okay. What does that mean? Because different, maybe people, if they are seeing this show, they can come from different backgrounds, like Christians and so on. So maybe they have this view of like, if you are governing by divine law, that means that there is a pope, maybe at the head of the state, and he is stipulating these laws on people. But in Islam, it is not that way. You are a civil person, you are a normal person. It's not a theocracy. It's not like you are, like if you're president, you're saying that this is what Allah says, and if anyone disobeys me, then he's going to go to hellfire. Not because of the person. In Islam, it's not because of the person, it's because of the laws themselves, because of the religion itself. So I think, so if I can say it's a mixture, I don't know, but I think...
So you're inclining more towards option number 3?
Yeah, I can say so, yeah.
Okay, great. Brother Mamadou, where do you stand on this?
I think so the game of semantics is very important here, because as you phrased the question, you said a classical, a secular liberalist, and someone who interprets the law. I will be with the third option, but I'm going to demonstrate that the third option is the classical approach.
Okay.
So the interpreting and understanding God's
Great.
intent. So for me as a Muslim, I have to, what is the reason, what is God's intent in this land where I am? And I will demonstrate that is the classical approach.
Okay, very nice. So Mamadou looks like he's prepared for a detailed discussion. All right, Brother Patrick, which one of these 3 do you think is the proposed solution?
Yes, well, I would just like to mention that as Brother Omar said, sometimes you could have a community that is also based on with not only Muslims, that also has Christians or Jews or other religions. And here's the important thing is that Islam is a choice. You're a Muslim by choice. Nobody forced you to be a Muslim. You're a Muslim because you believe in God, and you believe in His deen, and you believe in Muhammad Rasul alayhi salatu wasalam. So yes, so this is a choice. So if you do a law that everyone has to follow, then you're forcing Islam on people, which is gonna make them maybe, you know, not like religion, or maybe some people they don't like to be forced, they like to do things on their own. And there's always Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala which puts Islam in their hearts. The one that wants it is gonna follow, and he's gonna open, the doors are gonna open, he's gonna be a better Muslim. He only needs the will.
Okay.
Allah gives him the power. So now I think that the best option is I'm not saying the classical way, I'm just saying yes, the third option where you have laws that are for all people, which are made by man-made laws, and these are the laws that people follow, and religion is followed by the peoples themselves. Like, yes, like you want to be a good Muslim, you follow the divine laws that Allah gave you.
Okay, excellent. So you're in between option number 2 and option number 3, somewhere in between.
Somewhere in between, yeah.
Okay, great. Brother Idris, where do you stand? 1, 2, or 3?
I guess it depends on the semantics of the way you lay the things out to me personally, because it depends on what's meant by what you said in certain ways, because it can be taken different ways, but the viewers may not see it the same way that you're laying it out, and understand it a different way than you're saying it.
Sure.
But for me, I lean more towards the classical way, because I think they laid it out for us, and but that doesn't mean that it's a rigid way.
Okay.
Because someone may think that because you said the classical way that it's rigid,
Right.
and that there's no room for change, or it depends on the person has to understand what you mean by that.
Sure.
So for me, if I had to just pick from one of the other 3, I would say the classical way. But I don't understand the third way that you're saying from what's understood. Do you mean maqasid, like of Sharia, or is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, so the intent behind each law, not the law itself.
Yeah, which is I'm totally against. Because I believe maqasid is one of the, in this day and age, one of the most abused things that we have today, and people don't even understand what maqasid means.
Okay.
What it comes from, maqasad and qasada, what the word even means, and where it came from, what it comes from, what it uses for.
Okay.
So
All
that's
right,
something we can talk about later on.
So we've got a diversity of opinions. Brother Omar?
I think according to this clarification, I'm
Sure.
going to say this, my way is the fourth way. What I said, because
So it's all semantics.
Yeah,
It depends
yeah,
on
it's
what you
about
mean.
semantics,
It's something that's such a deep topic that it needs you to clarify what you mean.
Yeah.
Sure.
It's not, I like ice cream. What does that mean? What ice cream do you mean? Natural ice cream?
With a cone
Yogurt? What do you mean by that?
Sure. Feel free to express yourself as you please if the question is unclear. But Brother Omar, what does God's law mean to you personally?
Well, before I say this, Brother Patrick said something very important. He said that we live together like Christians and Jews and other peoples, and maybe some people, they can misunderstand, like they think that means we are not gonna like implement the Islamic law because we are afraid that other people are gonna object to this. But I want to clarify and say that philosophers actually, when they try to explain what is divine law, they say it's natural law. And you can think natural, that means it is something against religion. No, no, no. They mean it that it is something that comes to mind as natural. Like for instance, to any person on earth, if he's a Muslim, if Christian or Jew or even an atheist, if you tell him, is it right to kill somebody? No. It's not right. So it is actually something haram or something prohibited in Islam to kill somebody. And it's divine law, right? So what comes naturally to people, like you don't want to steal people, use usury, like you go and maybe I can go and cheat on my wife. All these things, if a Christian is inside the Islamic land, he's not going to object to this. He's not going to say, this is an Islamic law and this is Sharia, how dare you put these new things to us? Like, no, it's not new. This is actually what we all agree upon, right? But maybe sometimes, because of some people, they appear like they are maybe rigid, as Brother Idris said, that can distort the image and can make it like something different. I think mostly it's not different.
Very nice. So we can, you're saying we can actually use the word natural law instead of divine law because it's the same thing.
I would like to say something about
Sure,
that.
go ahead.
There's a problem in that where, let's say just for instance from Slovenia, because I'm from Slovenia, so I can talk about that. In Slovenia, there is a law, or people are mostly, there are some atheists and stuff. Most people, because marriages in Slovenia are really expensive, and there's a lot of paperwork, so they live together, a man and a woman, without being married. So in Slovenian man-made laws or classical laws, that's not against the law. They even get the paperwork exactly like they're married, but they're not. Like if a man dies, she gets the house, she gets whatever possessions he made. In divine law or in Islam, that would be a very very bad thing called zina. So if we put a classical law here and a divine law, so it's the same. Muslims, they can't do this.
Right.
We can't even think of doing this, but they're doing it because classical law, it's okay. They don't. It's not against the law. They even made a law that people can live together, and if they don't want to get married, that's okay. So that's the problem.
Okay, society has accepted certain
yeah,
norms.
some societies have accepted this, so this is a problem. So if we would if we would implement Islam on this, some people may not agree because not most people have money to pay for marriages and all the paperwork. So this is the problem.
And just the point on that I would like to interject is that, for example, I think people think when applying Sharia, especially living with non-Muslims, they feel like we're going to enforce something on them. And I remind you of the example of Imam Malik in Medina, rahimahullah, when the Zoroastrians were practicing incest. Zoroastrians were marrying mum and son, and they were practicing incest with each other. And Imam Malik was asked specifically on this. He said that it is abhorrent to our deen, but it's fine with them, leave them to it. And I feel this is a very good, I think sometimes people feel like we must establish Sharia where we are, means we're going to enforce a kind of a code on people, when their deen doesn't even prohibit this. So we're not enforcing things on people. I think that's the problem we face nowadays anyway.
Okay, on that note, I'll ask everyone just to take a short break. We're going to watch a report on the topic of Islamic law or Sharia, and then when we come back, we'll continue with our discussion on which way forward. Is it the more traditional classical approach, or is it alternative ways in which we can look at or even use to move forward? So I'll see you in just a few moments.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
The way to true Islam is by following the Quran and the Sunnah as they were revealed, as they were understood by the generation in which they were revealed. That is the way. And there is no other way. It is one way. The madhabs were at efforts by scholars to understand and apply that way. Human beings have differences of intellect, differences of opinion, so certain differences did arise, naturally. But the common, the essential element was shared by all. And that is the approach that we need to come back to in order to be able to find the way to true Islam. And as I said, I've spoken from a legal perspective. But there are other perspectives too. We can take the same approach and apply it in other areas which have to do with, for example, our mode of worship. Our mode of worship. How do we worship God? How did Prophet Muhammad, may God's peace and blessing be upon him, worship God? How did the companions of the Prophet worship God? Did they worship God through intermediaries called saints, awliya? Did they have amongst themselves witch doctors called Bomo and other names? No. These are foreign things. So this principle, this way, because time is limited, I don't have the opportunity to go into each and every aspect of it, but we should use the same approach that we have used towards the legal matters to deal in the theological matters, the aqidah, the same way. As people strayed in Christianity from the original teachings of Jesus, from the original teachings of Moses, people among the Muslim world have strayed also from the original teachings of Prophet Muhammad. May God's peace and blessings be upon all of the prophets. The difference is that for Christians, there's no way back. They can't go back to the original. Whereas for us, the original remains preserved in its pristine purity, and we can go back. So in the same way we should approach our legal matters, we should also approach our theological, our social matters, family law, how we handle inheritance. I mean, unfortunately, in so many parts of the Muslim world, all of these areas have become corrupted, where people's customs and traditions now have superseded the Sharia in this regard. Because actually Sharia addresses also the theological, also the social and political, etc. So, in concluding, the only way forward, the only way to true Islam is to hold firmly to the Quran and to the Sunnah as it was understood by the first generations. To apply it with that understanding in all aspects of our lives. That is the way to true Islam. Barakallahu fikum. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, after watching a short report there by our Sheikh Abu Amin Bilal Phillips, talking about man-made laws versus godly laws. Dear viewers, it's very important also to note that these laws are there set by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the betterment of society, for us to improve ourselves, not just as Muslims but also non-Muslims, to take the people from dhulumat, as Allah describes it, darkness, into light. And dear viewers, you can also communicate with us. Our phone numbers are running across your screens. You can see them right there. 2 numbers there. Call us. If you're outside of Egypt, then do use the code, which is inside the brackets. Give us your opinions. Give us your thoughts. What do you think about Islamic law and man-made law? What do you think is the way forward? If you can't get to your phones, you can jump onto Facebook and go to Let's Talk, and you'll see a post. Put a comment there, and inshallah ta'ala, I will read it out live here in the studio. So do engage with us, make it interactive, and tell us, do you agree with comments or disagree with people, what they're saying? Get involved, inshallah ta'ala. Brother Mamadou, if I can come to yourself and ask you, what do you feel that the Sharia or Islamic law means to you?
I think I'd like to start off by saying I believe Sharia means different things to different people, naturally, and I feel like you do a great disservice if you say it's just a set of rules, or it's just a set of rules on how to worship Allah, or how to come to know Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I think that's a great disservice to Sharia. As to why I believe, I think Sharia is something, it's almost like a way of life that governs every aspect of your life, whether it's going to be your political outlook, the way you live in the Western world, the way you interact with your people, Muslims, non-Muslims. That's what Sharia is for me, as well as worship.
Okay, very nice. If I can move over to this side, Brother Idris, if I can ask you the very same question, what does Sharia mean to you?
Sharia means to me basically Allah's guidance and governance for us in this life. That's simply put what it means to me.
Okay.
And every aspect you can think of it.
Short and concise. Very nice. Okay, and Brother Patrick, how would you interpret or understand Sharia?
Well, in the beginning, when I started to learn Islam, I looked at it really in a really simple way. It's life is like an exam. You go through all these difficulties and you get tested in many ways. You know, Allah tests every one of us in each situation. He's looking over you and He's seeing how you deal with the situation. Some of them are easy, some of them are hard. So I looked at it as an exam, and the Sharia, if you follow it, it's like a model answer. If you follow it, it's there, it's a model answer. You go past the exam and you know how to easily overcome these situations you go. If you don't, the farther away you go from the Sharia, the more difficult you find yourself dealing in certain situations or in parts of your life.
So it gives you the tools and the skills to deal with life as a whole. All right, very nice. Brother Omar, if I could begin with yourself. I know you've got a comment about something that was said earlier, but as you answer that question as well, I'd like you to think about my follow-up question, which is, why is it that now, whenever we make mention of Sharia Islamiyah, not just amongst non-Muslims in the Western audience, but even amongst Muslims, you get a frown as a response, or you get negativity given back at you? Why does the Sharia have such a negative reflection?
Yeah, it's a very good question. But first, the
Sure,
small comment, just a small comment, just one statement. When Brother Patrick was saying that when people they are cohabiting because it's so expensive for them to marry, I think it's not the problem of the divine law. It's the problem of the implementation of people who are responsible for the citizens, that they are not making it easy for people to have like the marriage facilitated and so on. And that can take me actually to the question that you asked, Brother Junaid. It's about like people, they get maybe afraid and they don't want Sharia because there is like a reduction. You are reducing, or some people they are reducing it to the hudud, to only punishments. This is what means Sharia, but that's not true. Sharia is not like this. Like for instance, I'm going to give an example. They always say like, okay, do you want to chop off heads and hands and so on? But it's not only that there are shuruts or conditions, but I'll give an example from the life of the companions.
Sure.
One of the companions, the great companions, Umar ibn Khattab, he found like some of the slaves at that time, they stole or robbed some camels and so on. So he didn't actually punish them. What he did is that he went to the master of these slaves and he told them that you guys, you make them starve and then they go and steal. If they do this again, I'm going to cut your hand.
Okay.
So that means that it's actually dealing with the roots of the problem. Not like, oh, we are hungry for blood and we want to kill people because we're waiting for them to break the law. No, it's not that way. It's actually the opposite. We want to prevent it from the beginning. We want to prevent it by making like it easy to people to get married.
Sure.
People to have jobs, decent jobs, and to have health care and so on. And at that time, when people break the law, there is no need to do this.
So facilitating goodness and preventing evil from...
This is actually Sharia.
Okay. All right, very nice. Patrick, if I can ask you the same question. So what are the reasons to why the Sharia has got so much negativity now across the world?
Well, I think of how people are basically perceiving like in their heads of what Sharia really is, like Brother Omar said, because most people, they don't really understand Sharia, yet they make certain perceptions in their head like, okay, yeah, this is it. Like they see certain, like they said, I saw a video on YouTube the other day, like how they punish someone for there was a sexual harassment, and they say that is cruel. Well, they don't actually understand the point of Sharia, or they don't know the whole of it. That actually this is the right way. This is the way that they used to live long ago, and it has a point, because Allah Subhanahu wa Taala, sure, He knows better than all of us.
Okay.
Maybe you don't understand it, but don't question the method, or don't doubt it. If you doubt it, then you push it away, and if you push it away, then the community itself, like, it's adapted to this new level where they all do the same thing of reducing the Sharia, or trying to make it at a certain level. It goes to the sum of, but yeah, that's it. So people, I basically think people have a wrong perception. Like Omar said, it's perceived wrongly in people's heads.
Okay, great. Would you like to add to that very quickly?
Just very quickly.
Sure, go ahead.
I wanted to emphasize what they're saying. It's basically that the media and the world has made it seem that Muslims are bloodthirsty, and that's all we care about. And Sharia is hudud only. Sharia isn't just hudud. Sharia is family laws. Sharia tells you about your finances.
Okay.
That's not punishment. Sharia tells you the best way to handle your money.
Okay.
Is that a punishment?
No.
It's guidance. This is Sharia. Sharia is not only to hurt someone for doing something they shouldn't do. It's also guidance how to do something in the best way. That's Sharia. If people knew what Sharia was, they probably wouldn't do that, because some of the things that they have in their country is in line with Sharia.
Yes.
So it's a more comprehensive meaning, which entails all aspects of one's
Yeah,
life.
it's not just hudud. It's not only punishment.
Okay.
And on top of that, the same people who complain about the punishments and say they're barbaric, their country has punishments also. If you kill somebody, you may go to jail for the rest of your life.
Right, okay.
You have chosen punishments. You know, hudud is you have your own hudud. So what's the difference?
Right, okay. Excellent. On that note, we're going to take a very short break, and then when we come back, we will continue with our discussion, and maybe things will get more heated when we get back from the break. Dear viewers, we're going to take a very short break here, and we are talking about a very important subject, and that is man-made laws versus the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Let's take a short break here, stretch our arms, stretch our legs, and then when we come back, we look at the implementation side. How can we now bring about God's law? So I'll see you in just a few moments.
Perfect my eyes and I praise. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi. Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala.
Go ahead, Ya Shu'aib. Recite from ayah number 16 to 26.
Yeah, okay. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم ولقد خلقنا الإنسان ونعلم ما توسوس به نفسه ونحن أقرب إليه من حبل الوريد.
تلقى المتلقيان عن اليمين وعن الشمال قعيد ما يلفظ من قول إلا لديه رقيب عتيد.
جاءت سكرة الموت بالحق ذلك ما كنت منه تحيد ونفخ في الصور ذلك يوم الوعيد وجاءت كل نفس معها سائق وشهيد لقد كنت في غفلة من هذا فكشفنا عنك غطاءك فبصرك اليوم حديد
This is the Deen Show. 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 This is the Deen Show.
So from that, I've really come to understand that to be a Muslim, to be someone who says they've surrendered and submitted to the will of God, is to be in harmony with everything around you and to be a benefit to everything.
Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, our Creator, He gave us a life plan. He told us what to do. He gave us goals and what He expects from us.
It has roots in Islam because the first man who was created, Adam, he was neither a Jew or a Christian, but he submitted himself to God. Abraham, he didn't submit to anyone in creation. He didn't even hear in any of these religions. But when he was told to do what? Submit to the will of God. That's Islam.
Attached to his preconceived notions. Yes. And if he looks with an objective eye and an open heart, he'll see it. Unless Allah for some reason has something over his eyes because of something that we don't know is in his heart.
You had from 1980 to 2005, you had the FBI data report showing that now from all these years that only 6% had any links to Islam. 94% were people who had nothing to do with Islam.
This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show. This is the Deen Show. Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back, dear viewers, joining us here live on Let's Talk, talking about a very sensitive subject, and that is God's laws versus man-made laws. Dear viewers, I strongly encourage you to get close to your phones and join us in this discussion. Our numbers are running across your screens, and if you're calling outside of Egypt, please don't forget to use the code. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And do you have an alternative solution? If so, join us and share with us your opinions and your thoughts as well. If I can turn to Brother Mohammed, if I can ask you a question built upon what Brother Idris was saying prior to the break, talking about Muslims being bloodthirsty, and I'm picking on a particular aspect of the Sharia, so not the whole thing, just the aspects of hudud punishments. What is the purpose behind that? Is it to show that we love blood and killing, or is there a greater objective behind it?
Definitely a greater objective. I would like to quote Ibn Ashur, the Grand Mufti of Tunisia, the Maliki. He puts hudud into three categories. The first one being to reform society.
Okay. So
we want to make society as best as it can be. And these punishments are not there to kind of, just kill people or, inflict pain on people, but to reform society to make it better. The second one, he says, is to satisfy the victim. So you've been hard done by, and rather than you taking revenge and taking law into your own hands, as is human nature, the state will intervene on your behalf and act on your behalf as an arbitrator and to rectify things between people. And the last thing is a deterrent.
Okay.
So to deter people from committing another act. If someone sees what can be done to you if you do violate Allah's law, this will take place against you. And it's very interesting because Shaykh al-Islam Ibn Taymiyyah rahimahullah says that in his time, up until his time, 800 years prior in the Haram, no one was ever killed for stoning. No one was ever killed by stoning.
Very interesting.
So it shows that it works as a deterrent.
Okay.
So, but I definitely feel back onto the bloodthirsty point. It's both, no doubt, probably 90% is the media portraying Muslims as being bloodthirsty.
Okay.
But I do say sometimes when people say the hudud, they immediately think of, cutting hands off and these kind of apparently barbaric punishments. But I'd also like to bring our attention to Imam Barzuli, who was a 15th century Maliki, and he was the Grand Mufti of Tunisia, of Zaytuna. And he, in his time, says that, if I remember correctly, that hudud can be exchanged for other punishments. And that hudud is not actually the punishment itself, but what it seeks to aim.
Okay, so interpretation of the laws will come to just a few moments.
Okay, no problem.
We will save that one for in a few moments. Brother Omar, I want to ask you another question, linking on to what we're discussing here. Is the Sharia itself, as a whole, many people will understand. Sorry, I'm going to have to come back to you. We have a phone call. We have Moran from Egypt. Assalamu alaikum. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam.
Go ahead, give us your question or your comment. You're live here in the studio and let's talk.
Okay, so my comment, first of all, I applaud you for the topic. It's very sensitive, and this is, I think, the main problem around the world today. But I did want to add that people also, they have a bad perception about Sharia because of us, not only because of what Sharia says, because of what culture and different traditions and different countries do. So some ideologies, they force themselves upon people and then they link it to Sharia. So people out in the West, they'd be like, So why this country stops girls from education, for example, or why girls don't go to school? Oh, this is an Islamic country. Also, it must be something that has to do with Sharia. And in another country, women don't drive, for example, cars. So yeah, this is an Islamic country, so they link this in their mind with Sharia, and many other stuff like when Muslims are that judge or they force people into doing something, even though the Prophet didn't say so, or the Prophet was very like with around people. It is with husna, not forcefully. It's not very. It's not oppressive, you know. And also like the. Sorry, hello.
Yeah, go ahead, sister.
Okay. And also like how people deal with marriage or like forced marriages or stuff. So I think also culture has a role to do with it, with the bad perception. Not only what Sharia says or what Sharia like the hudud and stuff. So that's all.
Okay, thank you very much, Sister Noran. We appreciate your phone call. You mentioned so many things here. I think that's another program in and of itself. But yeah, your point is very correct that unfortunately the Sharia has been tarnished because of culture, because of traditions, because of laws pertaining to certain countries. So if a woman can't drive or a woman can't do this or can't do that, that's not because of Islam. That's because of that particular country's perception or understanding of what is better, what they think is better for themselves. So fantastic call, and also bringing in the important subject of culture. Thank you very much, Sister Noran. If I can come back to Brother Omar, and the question was about Sharia. Does Sharia equal dictatorship, or do we have a choice in those that govern us?
No, it doesn't equal dictatorship. And I just wanted to say, like, we are talking about the topic of this subject here is the comparison between man-made law and religion. What we're talking about here, like Muslims being bloodthirsty and so on, we are assuming that people, they want to kill, people they want to steal, they want to become bad. But why is this? Most people, they want to live in peace, actually. They don't want to harm other people because they don't want to be harmed.
Okay.
Right. And most of these things, when we stop them, actually we don't stop them because we want to be punished. We are afraid of being punished. I don't go and like have something haram or follow my lusts because it's haram. Even if I don't have a punishment, if I live in another country, I'm not going to do it. So it comes from within. So it's not dictated upon me by like the system itself. Like if you don't do this, and behind closed doors, I'm going to change my mind. But actually, man-made laws are actually sort of like a dictatorship. Why? Because even if I'm not convinced, you have to abide by the law.
Okay.
You have no choice. And these laws are arbitrary because from a different state to another one, just an imaginary line, imaginary border, here marijuana is legitimate, it's legalized. In another place, it's not legalized. If I pass with it from one state to another, I'm going to be thrown to jail. But if I go and have it in another state, oh, that's fine.
Okay.
So, of course, that doesn't make any sense. This is dictatorship, actually.
So man-made laws are not consistent.
Yes, of course. And this is sort of dictatorship because, I'm doing it because according to the system itself, not according to what I believe inside me. Okay. So when we are implementing Sharia, actually, it's coming from within in the beginning. Like Muslim people, they want it. They want to actually do these things. They don't want to do bad things.
Okay, excellent. Thank you very much, Brother Omar. Mustafa, would you agree with the last part of what Brother Omar was saying about the fact that Muslims want the Sharia? Would you agree with Muslims actually from the depths of their heart, yes, they want the implementation, they want God's law on earth, or are they themselves resistant?
Well, true Muslims, they want the Sharia, and a simple even with the punishments, a simple example would be with when someone, let's say the classical law, if someone murders someone's family member, so they in Islam is you kill, you be killed, because you took a soul, your soul should be taken, so you go to Allah to be judged. So I'm thinking here, when someone kills someone's family member, what happens to him? He goes to court and he goes to jail maybe for the rest of his life. So this family who got hurt is now someone maybe sitting there and thinking, look at him. He killed let's say my brother for instance, and he killed my brother, and now he's sitting in jail, eating food, socializing with other people that committed crime, and that makes people like, he still seeks revenge. He doesn't feel this thing like, I didn't take revenge. He's still alive. He's somewhere. He may be as well enjoying his time. You don't know. So if he gets killed, it's sort of, you know, the right punishment because you lost a soul, so he should be killed. I'm not saying that this is blunt, but it makes sense in a way. I see it very sensible. So I'm just saying, yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, I just want to add.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
Sorry, I just find it difficult with the term a true Muslim wants Sharia, because I feel like Sharia has some different interpretations, and if we look at our different governments throughout the history, what Sharia meant in North Africa, Al-Andalus, was different to what it meant to the Hijaz, and what Sharia was in Hijaz was different in the Sultan in Delhi. So I feel like a true Muslim should want Sharia, but what that Sharia means will be different to different people, and how different people understand Sharia will be different to how much they accept and how much they want it.
Okay.
But you have fixed rules, right? That you have like things that we are not going to differ, even if we're living in different countries.
That's right. But some are different as well, which I'm sure we said we're going to talk about the interpretation.
Yeah. Okay, we'll come back in just a second. But Brother Idris, before we come to the interpretation of law, I want to ask you a question about selecting our leaders. Does the Sharia imply that the people have no choice in selecting their leaders, or in the modern terminology, voting for the leaders?
For me, I believe that they don't have it in the same terms as they have it now.
Okay.
They have a way in influence, but not in the way that it's implemented in democracy. Democracy and Sharia don't go hand in hand in the terms of the modern day definition of democracy, or the dictionary definition don't go well with Sharia.
So how would Muslims then select, elect, choose their leader?
It's a whole other show that probably we can go into. It's a long process, but basically it's shura, and the people of knowledge and of leadership who are upright, who you elect, who you trust, who lead you, would choose the leader.
Could I put a question in response to that?
Okay, you want to be the presenter?
No, just a question about democracy and Sharia not going hand in hand.
Okay.
So just to ask them, I feel sometimes we get so caught up in the system. So we hear democracy is like, oh no, it's bad, or we hear Sharia sometimes, oh no, it's bad, and we kind of just step back and say, what is the objective of Sharia? What are the objectives of democracy? So if the objectives of democracy are justice, and I'm not saying we can debate it, that's a whole other show in itself again, and Sharia is justice, won't those two objectives go hand in hand? And if democracy achieves that, then that goes hand in hand with the Sharia.
I would say no, in the sense that what is justice? Justice in the eyes of democracy could be that homosexuals have the right to cohabit and get married. But in Sharia, this is a big problem. So it depends on, this is all arbitrary. So I'm giving you the definition of democracy according to, the Webster Dictionary.
Okay.
You have to define the term that you want to use, because you could define it in a Sharia way, and it would make sense.
So
but I'm giving you the modern term of democracy is that the majority rules. They're the ones who make the rules. If the majority says, the majority goes, this isn't in line with Sharia.
Okay, all right.
You can't say alcohol is halal. You can't say that, certain things that are qat'i can be changed.
Okay, let's pick up on that point. Brother Omar, talking about qat'i, the word has been mentioned a number of times, meaning something which is fixed inside of our faith. And there are some things which some would say are not fixed. They're open to interpretation. Would you say that the Sharia as a whole, once again, we're not just talking about the laws, we're talking about a way of life. Is it open for interpretation completely, or is it not open to any interpretation whatsoever?
No, I think both are wrong. You cannot say that it is open to 100% or closed 100%. I think there are things like the open, and when we are talking about leadership here, I can give an example. Like at the time of Umar al-Khattab, at this time, they were like, there is a connection between the Arab world and the Persian Empire and the Roman Empire. So now people, they wanted to get married to Christians and the Persians and so on. Why? Because they are beautiful and so on. So you want to get married to them. So Umar al-Khattab did something for us. What is happening here? He banned getting married to the Christians and Jews. So how is it possible? How would this happen? Because there is something wrong going with if people go and get married to non-Muslims, now the Muslim girls are going to stay without marriage.
Okay.
So now what did he do? He said, this is something halal actually in the according to Sharia, but now according to this situation, oh no, if all people they just abuse this right, this is the right to get married to a
So
Christian or
there
Jew.
is a level of interpretation which is
Of
permissible.
course, especially according to the leader too, because he sees what's good for people, also what's
Okay,
bad.
great. So we're looking at administrative issues. And I have to go a bit faster now because I've been whispered in my ear to come to a close. Brother Mohammed, what would you say about interpretation? Is it open interpretation or no interpretation whatsoever?
I think everyone have to agree, but I think there's more interpretation than more things that are closed. I think Qatay is a small part of things, and we all agreed on those things. And I think there's more things open to interpretation. For example, Imam Barzuli, 15th century jurist in Zaytuna, he said, for example, the hudud, they focus on the aims of the hudud rather than the actual punishments.
Okay.
And I'll leave it with that.
Sure. I'm going to have to move faster. Brother Mustafa, very quick, what do you think? Interpretation
Yes,
or no
definitely
interpretation?
interpretation, but not all of it. Like, there's some things that are not, but definitely there's more interpretation.
Sure. Idris?
Same thing. Some things are interpreted, some aren't. And I think some things are, especially the things that are agreed upon that are so obvious. I don't think you'll find a Muslim in the world who has any type of knowledge would say that alcohol is okay.
Okay.
You know, I'm going to think back a fifth of, it's okay, this is the new Islam. I don't think some things are just agreed upon.
All right, we've got a few minutes left, and I want to talk about some of the practical matters, some of the implementation stage, or what's actually the events in front of our very eyes. If I can begin from this side. Brother Mamadou, I want to ask you, today you've presented a particular style or image of Sharia that you think is godly and you think is something that should be present. Is this present on the earth today? And if it is, explain to us how. And if not, what do you think is the most successful model in front of you today?
I wouldn't say, I don't think it's present. I think there's aspects of it in even in Western societies. I think there is. But I feel above all, it starts with education, educating people as to what Sharia is and what people can focus on Sharia. And once people have an understanding of Sharia, first of all, then why not make people want it? After making people actually want it, then people will actually strive to work towards that. So I feel that's my main thing now, educating people and as to what I believe. As I said in the beginning, what I believe is the classical way of Sharia.
Okay, mashallah. So you've got moved from position number 3 to position number
That's
1.
classical.
Okay, great. I like that. Mohammed has been influenced. Go ahead. Brother Patrick, what do you think? In the world today, the view you see of the Sharia and Islam, is it present today?
Well, that's a problem. The problem is I see in some things, like Sharia is present in Europe, there's some of the things are there, then some of the things are here, and some of the things are maybe elsewhere. I think it's present, but it's like pieces of cake, and it's like all over the world. Like, let's say in Europe, they're more organized.
Very nice. We all like cake.
Yes, they're more organized. They take things seriously, and they take time seriously. They're well organized. Here, there's more. We have more masjid. We have better way a Muslim can actually live here. Friday is off because of Goma prayer. There is not. So I'm thinking like, surely it's present, but the problem is it's scattered. It's not somewhere like in one place, and we can call it Sharia. It's scattered, and Sharia, it's really from inside a person, like the correct way to live, and it depends on people. Like, you can't find a certain region of a country that has, that thing. So that's the problem.
Brother Idris, the very same question to you. Born and bred in the United States, everyone says you want to live the American dream, the land of the free, as they call it. Would you say that America is closer towards the goals of the Sharia being free and fair and just, or would you say the Muslim countries are closer?
I would say it's a hodgepodge. Like it's like they said, it's some of the things they took from. Actually, believe it or not, some of the things they took from Muslims. Some of the things that you see in the West, they actually got from when the Muslims were at the height of power. Some of the etiquettes, the medicine, the cleanliness. When they were in the Dark Ages, the Muslims were enlightened. So they didn't just like make this up. They didn't just, hit them on the head and say, oh, they learned from the Muslims. So they got it from Sharia. So some of it's there, but we can't say that, they have a lot of fawahish there. So I wouldn't say that it's, has more. I just think it's, pieces here, pieces there. Pieces are here, in this area. They have family law. It's Sharia, so.
Okay, I'm pressed for time, being told to stop, but I want to get Umar's opinion before I go. You've got like 10 seconds.
Sure.
In your country, you're an Egyptian citizen. Would you say that you, as an Egyptian, are closer towards God's divine law, or would you say that maybe in Western world they are closer towards this divine system?
Instead of making this comparison, I just want to make one
Go
point.
ahead, you've got 10 seconds.
Yeah, okay, I'm going to finish in 1 second, inshallah. We are lacking now a collective work by scholars to define to us what does Islamic State mean. So that's why there is this chaos,
All right, thank you very much, all four of you. I appreciate your time, your efforts, your thoughts, and your contributions, more importantly. Brother Omar, thank you very much. Brother Mamadou, I appreciate you coming out and giving us your thoughts as well. Patrick, thank you very much. Idris as well, appreciate it very much. And collectively, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Alaikum assalam.
Dear viewers, we've come to the end of our discussion here on Let's Talk, talking about God's law versus man-made law. And we've had a different spectrum of ideas, spectrum of views. But the most important thing is that we all agree. We all agree that God's law is supreme and divine, and we want to see it prevalent across the world. How, when, and what, these are questions which we can discuss. But we all want to see justice for everybody, be it Muslim, non-Muslim. And we must work hard together as one entity, as one body, to achieve this. And that's the command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Dear viewers, we're going to stop here, and I will see you hopefully next week at the same time, at the same place, on this beautiful program, Let's Talk. So until then, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
How perfect my Allah is, and I praise Him. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanallah wa bihamdihi, Subhanallah. How perfect you are, Allah. Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, Subhanahu wa ta'ala, Allah, Allah. I'm calling your name, Allah. I call you, I need you, Allahu Akbar, Allah. Your mercy is great.